Welcome to the Board Game Secret Show. This is episode 8. I've been on a bit of a hiatus, had a little COVID, dealing with some burnout, some, lack of ideas around the show, but I'm back with a vengeance, at least for 1 week. And we're gonna get into it today. We have the FOMO pick of the week. We've got what I've been playing, and I have what I'm kicking to the curb from my collection. So I believe I've got 4 different trades and 5 games that are leaving the collection right now or have already left. So let's get into it. First and foremost, it's Ice. This is the FOMO pick of the week here. So Ice delivered to backers the first edition within this last year or so. It's 1 to 5 players, 90 to 120 minutes, which is something that we're going to circle back on. And a weight of 2.63, rating 7.3. So it's okay. Nothing too crazy. All right. So now the campaign, this is like a second edition. They're calling it Ice Unlimited. And this is probably one of the bigger changes I've ever seen in a second edition, which gives me a little pause. However, in general, I typically like to back second editions on Kickstarter if I'm going to. I mean, it's a proven game. It's obviously wouldn't be back if somebody didn't like it. And, it's had its kind of play tests and it's proven, right? Like so many things that we get off of crowdfunding, not proven at all. And they're typically pretty with shiny things, deluxe editions, all of that kind of toy bait that they throw out there for us big kids and get us to jump in. Now here with the second edition, I mean, it's proven, it's had some really great reviews, and in general, the game is looks pretty freaking cool. I mean, it is I guess the original game was 5 layers of hex tiles. So there's hex laying games or tile laying games. In this case, this is tile excavating games. You're excavating tiles. Those tiles are giving you some abilities and powers. It just kind of looks fun. There's different guilds, so it looks like there might be some asymmetry. I'm not an expert on it. I don't really know. You can see here this is the new. I guess this is not the deluxe, but this is the new basic version of the board. You can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4 layers or so overall. And the old game used to have 5 layers of hexes. The new one, they've totally changed that. So now there's 4, and the 4th is stagnant, kind of printed on the board. So technically now there's 3, which apparently is a pretty big improvement on setup. I could imagine laying 5 layers of hex tiles would be pretty awful. The thing that's getting me, of course, well, there are also some expansions that they're adding in there, which is pretty typical for our second edition Kickstarter. You gotta bait the old people back in there also. Let's see, the unlimited box is this is the FOMO part that always gets me. Apparently you get the dual layer boards, the hexes that you uncover go on these boards and are activated in some way or another. It's like different meeples for your expedition leaders or those asymmetric kind of guilds. 55 archaeologists. I don't know if that's different from the normal, but they got me at magnets. We got magnets here. That is, I don't know, a magnetic board. I don't know if it makes any difference whatsoever. I mean, it doesn't have the little puzzle piece connector there, but just the snap of a magnet really feels good. Camps, and then of course the metal tokens. I am such a sucker for metal tokens. But what's getting me on this game is I watched a couple videos that I would recommend to you. Board Game Co. did probably the best at outlining the changes between first edition and second edition, and Tim Chuan did a really great kind of, like he typically does, cinematic preview on what this game is, and I felt that was pretty awesome, and that helped with the FOMO bait. I will admit, for like an informational perspective on how this thing has changed. Go to Board Game Co. That video I thought did the best job at kind of outlining those changes, and there's a few changes here, of course. Mostly the big thing is going from 3 layers of setup to 5 layers, really fundamentally changing the game length and apparently kind of some of the fiddliness for the better, for sure. Then there's some fundamental like cost or economy changes that are happening in this game, which I thought was really interesting, this is the type of stuff that gives me a little bit of pause. On this first edition, they're actually making significant fundamental changes to the game on the second edition. If I would have backed the first, I wouldn't be feeling that great about it. Alex at Board Game Code goes through it, says like if you have the first, it's not that big of a difference. So, you know, I guess I don't have the background of the first, but overall that can't be a feel good moment for the people that backed this in the beginning. And now there's like fundamental rule changes and I mean, layers to the board changes and all of that stuff. But if you're going and backing it now, you got to feel good that this is now fully vetted and tested. You would have hoped these things would have come through on the first play testing, but it is what it is. And they're improving it. So that is good. For like the gameplay loop, I don't know if this is something I think there's always kind of conversation of recycling mechanics within the board game kind of design community, and they're doing something new here, so hats off there. That's Ice Unlimited. Check it out. I'm not saying to back it. I might back it. It might hit me on the old FOMO. I'm trying not to back a lot of things these days. A lot of my money is going towards games I can review right now, and waiting a year for something to show up just isn't really economical at this point when I'm trying to get so many other things for the channel. So we'll see. All right, what I am playing right now. Okay, so Harmonies. I just did a comparison on Calico, Cascadia, and Harmonies. Harmonies is a token drafting, token placement game. Just go check out that video if you want to know kind of more and how they compare. It's a very tight little puzzle that is pretty unforgiving relative to the other two that I had mentioned there. I'm still having fun with it. I'm having fun exploring it. My wife really likes it. She loves tile laying stuff and, you know, loves things like Calico. So we've played things like Calico to death. So anytime I have a new experience, I'm all for it. The kind of unique mechanism here is you're drafting these animal cards, and these animal cards, each one of them has a different orientation of these tokens that you have to make essentially, and each card has a cube spots essentially, and as you complete one of these patterns, you remove a cube, and if you remove all of the cubes, you score the max number of points. And you can move on to the next animal. I think you could be working on up to 4, which is just like mind-boggling and brain-breaking completely. The other kind of gimmick here is it's not just a flat puzzle. It goes vertical. There's buildings and mountains and trees that you can build vertical at different kind of levels. Those core terrain types each score differently inherently, so you're working in kind of this multi-leveled approach. You're trying to get these terrains together to score in one manner, but also put together to be able to attract the animal and complete the cards. It's a fun little puzzle. I won't spoil if you haven't watched that video. If I like it better than the other two mentioned in Cascadia and Calico, you're gonna have to go watch that. Something else I'm playing right now, Quacks of Quedlinburg. I have not gotten Quacks of Quedlinburg off of the shelf since the great cheating scandal in my household, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. The kids have grown up a little bit, and we're starting to trust them a little bit more in policing themselves in board games. But, you know, we noticed a few years ago that the boys just kept winning, or both of them were heads and shoulders above everybody else. And then we started kind of watching their eyes and the bag, and they started, we caught a couple of them glancing down, and then it was discovered that they were also putting the cherry bombs into the corner of the bag and only grabbing the good stuff on the other corner of the bag. So there was a massive cheating scandal in my household for Quacks. I really like Quacks, bag building, push your luck. My wife is clearly a degenerate gambler, and that really showed itself in Quacks of Quedlinburg and her constantly blowing up her pot. It's just a really great family game, as long as you don't have a couple of cheaters in your house that ruin it for you and never let you win the game. I highly recommend it for families, and I'm sure many of you have already played this game. There's nothing new there, but we did break out Quacks. And I think one of the boys still actually won, but I watched them very, very closely. I'm 85% sure that there was no cheating going on. Oh, I've been playing World Wonders with, what is it called? Let me get it right over here. So I love World Wonders. World Wonders is a great polyomino game. I did get sent for review, what is it? The Mundo Wonders Pack. It's a super small box. This is in focus. It's a super small box expansion here, and I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it's nothing super groundbreaking, and I don't know what it's going to retail for, so I can't really speak to the value. I will say I will never play without it again. There are Mundo cards now that are connected to new monuments. There's a whole new selection of wooden monuments you get. You don't necessarily need more monuments per se, so that in and of itself I don't think would be worth going and getting something like this. However, they're special in that there is a certain selection of them out with the same monuments, and the gimmick here is you're drafting them and they give you kind of an end game goal to work towards, which I thought was a really great addition. It really changes up the puzzle for you and has you working towards different things. Actually, I should probably get an example of what one of these goals are. So like the Olmec heads, you place them so you can, you want to place as many building tiles as possible in between the two heads. The player must leave 2 to 6 spaces between the pieces. Hanging gardens of Babylon surround this piece on all sides, similar to a city district as shown on the card. The gate of all nations, you create a long continuous road that passes through the gate. So there's just like extra little goals that you're working towards. So yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't know that I'll do a review on it. There's probably not enough there to do per se, but I do highly recommend it. I mean, dependent on the price, of course. I can't imagine it's a lot, you know. In fact, let me look. Let's see if it's out there. It's $24.99. I mean, it is sold out, by the way. It's, I guess, inflation and everything. It's and it is coming with, you know, big wooden monument pieces. So I get it. I don't know that $24.99 worth of gameplay per se, but it does add a really great element. I would love to see something like this included in the box, and the box, you know, the core box just raised a little bit, but regardless, I really enjoyed it. It's cool. All right, what else am I playing? All right, so I started kind of a project around playing the top 10, and I haven't really fleshed out what exactly the concept of the video is, but basically in playing Nucleum, I started, and I'm getting into the Australian expansion now, but haven't quite gotten it to the table yet, so I can't really speak on it. But I started looking at other route builders or network builders that are kind of in the same class. You've got Brass Birmingham and Barrage, which are constantly mentioned there, but then I started looking at kind of the ranking of all the games that are in between Nucleum and Brass, essentially in that like network building category. And there's quite a few, and Nucleum isn't even in the top 10. But there are some there are some newer games in that top 10 that I also thought were interesting that are sitting above Nucleum. But I'm out on a mission. I'm playing Brass. I've played Barrage now. That was the big one this week, along with Gaia Project. I'm in the midst of trying to figure out Gaia Project, which is like a whole ordeal, something I was not even expecting there. I don't know if I love it or hate it yet. I've got to play like Underwater Cities. What else? Clans of Caledonia? Probably mispronouncing that. Oh, what else? Here, I might as well just pull it up. All right, so you have Brass number 1, which I've played. Don't know. I don't know that I fully get it yet, so I'm not going to remark there. Gaia Project this weekend was the big, like, this is what I'm learning. I'm going to skip Brass Lancashire just to not have multiple in there. I'm going to skip Terra Mystica because Gaia Project is ranked above it. Although Age of Innovation has a better ranking or a better average rating, but the number of rankings aren't there to get it above, so it may be the top Terra Mystica pick in the end. But I got Gaia Project on Deal of the Day, Game Nerd, so that's the one I'm going in, that Terra Mystica space. Barrage I have definitely played, and spoiler alert, I really did enjoy Barrage, even though it's just kind of a weird theme, and you know, I guess thematically it's not really getting me, but the puzzle is great. And there's certainly a lot of take that. So if you don't like that, don't check out Barrage. I still have to play Underwater Cities Power Grid, Clans of Caledonia, Concordia, Keyflower, Carnegie, and Revive. So if I knock out the other Brass and the other Terra Mysticas, that's the top 10. There's a couple of modern picks there in Revive and Carnegie. I can play Carnegie on BGA. I'm trying to trade for Revive right now, which is, that's something I want to talk about in a second. Keyflower is on BGA that I think I will play there. I think I am trying to trade for Concordia. Clans of Caledonia, I'm going to play on BGA. Power Grid, I'm going to play. I don't know if it's app. I may have to go get that game. It's just a lot of stuff to try to acquire. But I'm dealing with the top ones right now. Brass, Gaia Project, and Barrage are the three route building, network building games. So the idea is to play the top 10 network building games and re-rank them from a modern perspective. I wonder if things like Revive, Carnegie, and even Nucleum, keep up with the classics, or even on their way to surpassing some of these classics. I think one of the tricky parts about these rankings is they are heavily influenced by number of rankings. That's why things like Power Grid, that's sitting at a 7.8, Clans of Caledonia sitting at a 7.9, and Keyflower sitting at a 7.7 are up in the top 10 of these games. I think in a vacuum, this is my hypothesis, that things like Carnegie, Revive, and Nucleum might pass those up. I would be surprised if they end in that same spot on the list for me after I played them all. But hey, who the heck knows? I will say things like Concordia, at an 8.3, I think that's probably going to stay up there. The one kind of wild card for me is Underwater Cities. That one might be pretty cool. This last weekend was Gaia Project. And like I said, I just don't know if I love it or hate it. I can't quite get it to do the things that I want it to do. And I'm basically mostly playing it solo on BGA right this second and just getting destroyed by the bot over and over again. So I don't really understand how all the mechanisms work together. And in fact, I'm to the point where I'm like, I don't even really know why I would ever do a Gaia project on there, which seems kind of odd. It made me feel a little bit better. I was watching a playthrough and they also didn't use the Gaia project mechanic. So I still got to learn a lot more there. I have a lot of plays to be had on network building games. I'm enjoying it right now, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. All right, so we are to games leaving my collection. This is, I think this is an important segment to have as somebody that reviews board games. Often, I think we're, caught up in the excitement of a new game, and it's still very valid, your kind of opinions through a few plays. And this kind of nests with another video that I had just done on a Feast for Odin. Go check that one out if you're interested. But how does a game's kind of standing with you change over time is as important or even more important than how you feel about it out of the gates. There is absolutely a shelf life to games, and I am the first to admit that. A great example, and something in which I mentioned in the video, Dwarf Romantic was something that we played a ton of this last year, but it's just fallen off, and I knew it had a shelf life. It was just going to kind of play its course. I was going to get my $50 out of it or whatever, and plays and move on. There's others that you think that are just going to be kind of mainstays, but stuff just changes. And the first and foremost is Sleeping Gods. I've never played Sleeping Gods. I had it sitting on the shelf. I thought I'd do kind of a comparison with Distant Skies, which I have reviewed. I don't even know if it's in the camera, but it's sitting right there. Liking Distant Skies was a little bit of a journey, but I'll spoil my video. I really do enjoy Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. And the things in which I love about it, I really enjoy the battle mechanic of it. And I just love how it's just kind of streamlined and really easy to play and go out and kind of have an adventure. And that streamlining, from what I hear, compared to the original, especially not having to kind of deal with the upkeep on a ship, among other things, is a big bonus. And I thought to myself, I just don't have time to really play all of these. Sleeping God Distant Skies isn't my favorite game of all time, so I just didn't really think that I would get into the original Sleeping Gods after what in some cases, at least the mechanics and the kind of quality of life stuff that's been added on there. Considering all that, I don't know that I'd go to the original. I've actually owned Sleeping Gods twice already, so there's no saying that I'm not gonna ever not get it back again. I said that really awkwardly, but you know what I mean. So it's leaving the collection, not forever. I made the trade for Food Chain Magnet. I was really intrigued by Food Chain during its Game Found campaign, but that was just crazy price, like $100 already for this game, especially after getting it and opening it and seeing what's in it is honestly kind of bonkers as to like what you're getting. I guess you're getting a lot of wood in there, but $100 is a lot. But I don't even remember what the game plan was. Maybe it was $300, something absolutely insane. So I didn't back it, so I just made this trade for it. I really want to play it. I think this is a type of game that my wife and I can get into. I am a little bit concerned by kind of the main criticism, of course, of Food Chain Magnet, that you can lose the game in the first turn. And, you know, this is kind of goes back to needing to play games a lot to really understand them. And this is I'm hearkening back to this Feast for Odin video that I had just done and released. That's where I think that's going to prove true as well with Food Chain Magnet. That's not what this is about, but that's what I traded Sleeping Gods for. The next games that I got rid of are some other games that I certainly wouldn't rule out from getting back, especially because I gave them really great reviews. Arborea and Great Western Trail, New Zealand. So I will never get rid of my original Great Western Trail. That's just, that thing's just beat up and has had a ton of plays, and I will always have it. And I think the simplicity around that game is something to really kind of talk about. Relative to Great Western Trail New Zealand, which is kind of the next level, I think. I think if you love Great Western Trail, which I absolutely do, Great Western Trail New Zealand is a great evolution. There's a lot of extra stuff in there. The table presence is insane. Or I guess I should say the footprint. It's huge. If you don't have a big table, that's a tough one to table. And I didn't get rid of it because I don't like it, because I really, really like it. My wife didn't love it. She just thought it was kind of convoluted and confusing. And there's just a lot to it relative to the original. So, you know, we're sticking with the original now. That's the one she would ask to play over New Zealand. So it is what it is. I also got rid of Arborea. That is one that I really like. The video completely bombed. Not many people watched that one, so I don't think a lot of people were into it. I love Danny Garcia as a designer. I really like Barcelona, so I got Arborea and really enjoyed it. It's kind of it's a psychedelic journey of a worker placement game that has some kind of novel worker placement concepts on there and just fun stuff. I certainly will probably have this back in my collection at some point. This isn't one that I'm getting rid of just because I dislike it and I never want to play it again. I definitely would play Arborea, but you know, a lot of these games that I kind of get rid of and cycle through aren't necessarily because I dislike them. It's just kind of by virtue of me trying to be like economical, even though I'm paying shipping and if I guess there would be costs to acquire again if I ever wanted them. But from like a short-term perspective, I need to get more games to play on the channel, and you know, this isn't really a great money maker. I don't know if you all know know that. There's a lot of costs associated, so I'm making trades for games. So that's why I got rid of Arborea and Great Western Trail to get back On Mars. For that same reason, I traded On Mars away to get Robinson Crusoe. And if you've watched all of these, one of the episodes, I go over how I got totally screwed on a trade where I got like the original Z-Man Games edition when I thought I was getting the collector's edition. Could have been my fault, could have been someone else. I thought it was a little bit shady. Regardless, I gave away a sealed copy of On Mars for, you know, what is like a $40 game on eBay right now. So I got screwed there. I took this as an opportunity. Someone offered this On Mars with the upgrade pack, and I'm going to do eventually a Lacerda series, so I need it back. I just got to get it back, and I'd love to get that one to the table. One that I am getting rid of that I actually really enjoy. It's another Polyomino game. It's Planet Unknown, and I did a review on Planet Unknown And if you watch that, you'd know that I backed Supermoon, and I had just happened to find this in Barnes & Noble. And, you know, for the content, I got it for the time being. Once again, another stupid economical decision. But still, you know, the content's out there. I realized I really liked it. Backed Supermoon with all of the stuff and like the tray that the pieces don't fall out everywhere, and mats and all of that. So I still have that coming. So, you know, Planet Unknown is still, you know, a great game. I mentioned it's a great game. I said don't go buy it because it's too expensive. You should probably back it at that time. But regardless, I got Mr. President. I don't know that if I'll ever cover this. That thing is insane. From GMT, it's just like opening that thing. There's so many pieces and there's so much to it. Certainly it's an aspirational game when I find a ton of time to myself to sit down and play through a presidency. You know, I think I saw it. I must have seen it on heavy cardboard. I don't know, but there's something just really dorky that I was really drawn to in Mr. President. So I made that trade there. That was cool. And one game that and probably the only game that I could say I really dislike on this list, and I'm never getting back again, which I still technically haven't traded it away. I'm trying to make a trade for one of the network building games that I need. Unmatched, Tales to Amaze. I don't know. Like, this is one of those games where I wonder, like, what am I missing? This got a ton of praise. I mean, I've had some of the Unmatched stuff in the past, which I've completely traded away. My son and I played it a little bit, but it felt, I don't know, you just kind of stand next to each other and box it out until one wins. I know there's more to that, and there's, you know, there's different dynamics in each character, the asymmetry, there's a lot to it. But I got Tales to Amaze hoping it would be a good kind of co-op solo game, and I felt really similar. I felt like it was a lot of standing around and just playing cards at each other. I didn't feel like there's like a really big skill gap there. I didn't feel smart when I was playing it at all. It was pretty boring. I think the alien scenario is the best of the two. It gives you some incentive. I can't even remember at this point, but it gives you some incentives to actually move around the board. And I think that's the toughest part about that Unmatched series. Unless you have incentive to move around the board, it's kind of, you know, feels, I don't know, it kind of was like a card game where you know the board and the dimensions of moving around really aren't that important. And I know the people that love Unmatched are going to say you don't know what you're talking about, which I don't know. But all I do know is I didn't really like this game. So I'm trying to trade this thing for something like Revive or Carnegie, where I need to get that for the series. I don't know if it will go through or not, but that is like the one game on here I would say. In fact, I didn't like it so much I didn't even review it. I didn't use it for content at all. I started to think about it and I was just like, why would I put something out like this that's just like all negative? It didn't really do anything for me. So we'll move on. That's just the way it is. So that's Tales to Amaze. It's out of here. It's gone. It's out of the collection as soon as I can pay someone to take it. The other trouble about trading these things away is I'm trying to like combo stuff together and do multi-game trades or big game trades, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to pay the shipping on it as well. So I've had a couple opportunities to trade it away at this point, but it just didn't make sense on like a $50 game to go spend $15 to ship it if I can't bundle it with something else. So anyways, that is the plight of being a board game degenerate who's constantly trading stuff around and getting rid of stuff. I'd love to know in the comments what you've gotten rid of out of your collection. Specifically, I'd really love to know what you really liked and have still gotten rid of and why. You know, so hit it up in the comments. And that's the show. That is it. We are done. If you liked it, thumb it up. If you didn't, thumb it down, I guess. And that still helps the old algorithm. It's good old engagement. So I appreciate it either way. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And on that note, I'm out of here. Have a great week.